2025 and welcoming you all to this webinar on inclusive and accessible dentistry. I'm sure many of you are wondering what this is all about because usually we have topics on clinical subjects, and we have something on how to do implants, how to do all the other things, but very rarely we talk about such topics. And today is the right day to do it because December 3 is the International Day for People with Disabilities, and that's why we are all here. And I appreciate you all for taking the time out and joining. Before I hand it over to the speaker, I'll just make the objectives clear, and I'll make why we are here so that all of us are able to take the most out of it. For those who, I'm sure most of you know, but for those who are, those of you who are not very aware about these technicalities of this term, I'll just give a brief introduction. We are talking about two words here. One is accessibility and one other is inclusiveness. Accessibility is where you design a system where everyone can actually access it, or you have them accessing it. For example, you as dentist are building a dental clinic. I'm sure Dr. Lakshmi and Divya ma'am will be talking about it. How can you make it more accessible? And the second thing is inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is even accessibility comes later. Inclusiveness is even before you design something, even before you do something. They call it universal design, where you design it in an inclusive way so that people are able to actually take benefit. And when I say, you may be wondering, there are going to be very, very few persons with disabilities who are going to come into our clinics. Should I take that pain to make my clinic more actually accessible and inclusive and all that? But let me tell you, we're not only talking about people with disability here. Your inclusive and accessible clinic can actually benefit a lot of people, be it very old people, be it people who some form of minor form of disability which may not be visible outside. So when you make your clinic or whatever is your workplace accessible and inclusive, it's going to benefit a lot of people. And as per stats, we have around 2.6 crores people with disability in India. But when you take the elderly, and they say India is aging, as of now we are around 103 I think million, and by 2025 will be 150 million of elderly people. So those people, and some of them, a part of them are also going to be benefited. So the objective of this session is how we can make our practice, our workplace, even our day-to-day lifestyles accessible and inclusive. We have very good speakers, so I'm not going to take much time out. And a brief introduction about ourselves as organizers. We are Sociodent. So we are a private limited company, an early stage startup. We are incubated at IITM Research Park, Chennai, and we are working on some innovations, especially for people who cannot. Our first innovation is a mouthpiece-based oral hygiene device, which is for people who cannot brush by themselves. So we are talking about quadriplegics, muscular dystrophy, and we are talking about elderly people. So we have won some government grants for it. We are supported by BIRAC, which is a body under Department of Biotechnology, and I have around 7 years of experience in this field of dentistry, mostly into this innovation and research and all that. And I'm very happy to be organizing this first webinar as part of Sociodent, and I'm happy to be having all of you. And now let's go to the first speaker that we have, because Dr. Lakshmi, I came to know her recently. She passed out of public health dentistry from my college. I was from Ragas PDS. She finished MDS from there. But beyond that, she has done a lot of things. I put a very few things here. I'm sure she'll talk about some of these things. Currently, she is a PhD scholar, and you'll be surprised, it's at IIT Madras in the engineering design department. She's been recently enrolled there. Apart from that, apart from her public health dentistry, she's also finished a certificate course in assistive technology. We both were glad to be part of it. And also, she was awarded as the top 25 innovators in Oral Health Innovation Conference, which happened at AIIMS Delhi in 2019. And happy I met her there again. So a lot of journals, if you put persons with disability in Chennai related to dentistry, I'm sure Dr. Lakshmi's name will pop up because it's on the Google, lot of journals, lot of publications. So you can, if you're interested in research, you can really read about it. So here I hand it over to Dr. Lakshmi. So she will take us over on how we can make our practice more accessible and inclusive. Over to you, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very sweet and a kind introduction. Before I start on, sir has told too much about myself. I am not such a great person here. I'm just here. My talk is just going to be on my experiences, how I'm just contributing a very, very, very little part, minute part to this sphere, entire universe I could call as accessible dentistry. So I would like to just share my screen now. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you, sir. So all of us have gathered here for a very different, like sir said, a webinar on making dentistry more accessible and inclusive. So whenever we talk about dentistry, we all of us, I'm sure all of us here are practitioners or some kind of having your own clinical setup or working somewhere. So when we say that we have to make it more accessible and inclusive, then probably there is one small sphere which we, or a part of it which we, or a population or a strata of people who feel that it is not comfortable for them. So today I'll be taking just a portion of them, that is the people whom I have worked with so far, people with disabilities, and today's day being the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So today I will be taking those straight up people and why we are saying that we need to make it more inclusive and accessible. So I've just taken a small portion of it where I call this as a smart dental clinic concept. And I will be explaining to you what this smart means. And I just want to go about with it. So whenever we start a thing, whenever we talk about a concept or a theory, with the evolutions and with things going on, we have something called as evidence-based dentistry, right? Where everything we talk should have some kind of a structure. So today I'm going to take a structure with the first letter of the alphabet, that is A. So I'm going to consider these 5 A's, which I call them as, this is a concept or a model proposed by Pochansky, who says that anything which we say needs to be inclusive or anything which we say needs to be accessible, to me, it should satisfy these 5 criteria. So it has to be accessible, affordable, accommodative, acceptable, and available. So just remember these 5 A's for now. And after going through the entire presentation, we will check whether we have made the checklist correct or not. Okay, so like I said, this entire presentation of this 20-25 minutes is just going to be the journey I have been through so far. So the very seed or the first initiative or the thought that we need to work in this aspect was put into my mind by my mentor guide, Dr. Madan Kumar, who was the guide for me in my PG days. So he was the one who initiated this spark inside me. So when he said, let us do something for them, let us do something innovative for them, we had to start off with the dental setup. So I just took this dental. This is how we started. I just took the dental clinic picture. And as you can see, this is an ideal dental clinic setup where we have got a lot of things. And whenever, be it a practitioner, consultant, and whomever, even a simple clinic will not be without a dental chair. So we thought, or for us to perform any procedure in a dental clinic, dental chair becomes the most important aspect, right? And also that is where we spend more money or invest more money in making it a very good, comfortable chair. So we thought we will start with this. But what do we do with? How is it accessible or not? Is it comfortable or not? So for that, I need to understand more about what exactly is happening in the field of disability as well as in the field of dentistry. So we just started off with the first publication where we did that a dental clinic or healthcare is being present. So what are the other designs I need to consider from my end to make it more accessible or comfortable for patients with special needs? So the inspiration for this came from the government guidelines, which was provided in 2016 by the government. So the government actually set rules saying how the environment should be barrier free for not just for people with disability, but also for elderly persons. So in that, they had given certain parameters or standards as how a healthcare facility should be, but not much specification was given in terms of oral care or dental clinic. So we just took that, and also we combined something called as ICF, is nothing but the International Classification Factors for Disability. So that has got something called as contextual factors, which has a positive and a negative aspect. So we consider only the positive aspects in this. That is, for different disabilities, so far has been 26 different disabilities have been given by a government. But if we talk in broader aspect, it will be, we can classify them in simpler aspects into 5. So we just consider these 4 major ones. And under that, what are all the aspects which the person who is blind will feel difficult? Also, so smooth flooring in a dental clinic will be a little difficult for them to have their tactile motions. So we can have something called as a tactile favors, and pleasant lighting instead of a dull lighting for people who are blind, because they tend to see the brightness will enhance their vision more. So that is how the journey started. So we just made a theoretical aspect of how a dental clinic should be. And then we thought we could narrow it down to a much narrower aspect, so that we will also work, or we can also contribute something as a product. So then we did another research on a mixed method research, which involves both a qualitative and quantitative aspect. And we were able to find few interesting findings. And one highlighted finding of that was the usage of the current available commercial dental chair was difficult among people who are in wheelchair, as well as in geriatric population. Basically, people who are using wheelchair, which has a huge spectra of this, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, and other than that, even people with elderly people. So those people found it difficult to use the current or the commercially available dental chair. So that was one finding which we found out. And all of us know, when we talk about research, the highest level of research is nothing but the systematic review findings. So we did the next step. A systematic review has what are exactly the barriers faced by them in utilizing and accessing this dental care. And we found in that 3 out of 5, there are not much studies, first of all, present. And even the studies which we included, majority of them found that the difficulty in accessing the current dental chair. So we took the first challenge as just transport to the dental chair. Why was it difficult for them? Because either they had to be transferred from the wheelchair to the dental chair, or if at all they were about to sit in the wheelchair and do the procedure, the duration could not be more than 5 to 10 minutes, which basically involves just a screening from our end. For us to do a treatment, we would at least need a solid of 15 minutes, which could not be done in their current wheelchairs. And then we did few more researches, and we found out that there are exclusive wheelchair dental chairs, and there were also certain aids like backrest, additional backrest for a wheelchair persons, and there were certain 2 or 3 modifications which was done. But then we thought, for a dentist, for a person who wants to set up a clinic, who wants to think that it needs to be inclusive in nature, he has to invest money, right? So if we can do something which can, a wheelchair which could accommodate both my a dental chair which could accommodate both my wheelchair person as well as a general population, then it will be a 2-in-1 combination, not just for the dentist, but also it will expand its horizon in treating patients. So thus came our brainchild, which we call as DAD chair, or the disabled aided dental chair. This is just a rough draft of the initial draft of how it all started. For a better understanding, I'll show you the CAD/CAM images. So this is the design which we proposed. And this is something which can be used for both general population as well as wheelchair bound people. So this is the commercialized dental chair which you can see in every clinic. So we made this seat portion detachable in nature. So that is, it could be removed, and once it is removed, a person with wheelchair can directly come and accommodate himself into this. Thus, it can be used for both general population as well as people who are coming in wheelchair. So, and we also made a ramp-like structure so that it can act as an aid in allowing the people in wheelchair to accommodate them into the dental chair by themselves. And this also has the same motions as up and down and back and forth. And this chair was patented by us in 2018, and we have received the initial patent, and we are now in the process of getting the final patent as well. And as you can see in the right side, this is the chair which is established in one of the dental satellite clinics of Pragas Dental College, where in NIPMED. NIPMED is actually a government center for multiple disabilities. And they Haragas, I was in my PG when I was working on this project. So we were able to install this in one of the satellite clinics of my PG college. And even now, it is being set up there, and they are still seeing patients with both wheelchair and dental chair. So this is one concept which I would suggest will be a more of a better use in future if at all we want to set up a clinic, inclusive dental clinics. Installment of this chair will allow us to see both general patients as well as wheelchair bound patients. So like sir said initially, just for a smaller portion, if at all you think you want to invest, I will tell you why this is very useful. Even if it's going to be a smaller sector of people, the concept of inclusive will come into play or will come into force only if we start taking these small steps. So this chair again was further subjected to trials where we were able to done a piloting study, and fortunately we were also able to publish the data, and we found that the chair was equally efficient in giving comfort, as well as it was also able to do the work which can be done by a commercial dental chair. So far this is the work I have done, and the next part will be the one which I propose to do in future. So as you can see, like I said, disability, a sector of disability we chose. We thought that transferring to the dental chair would be difficult, and we chose that part and we narrowed it down, and we were able to find a solution to it. That is our DAT chair. And then we have got other spectra of disabilities like the mentally disabled, ADHD, autistic children. Those people don't have any physical problem, but to them there is some kind of alteration inside them which makes them a little different from that of the other counterparts. So for them, we thought to make them more inclusive and more comfortable in dental setup, we formulated this concept called as SMART. This actually overshades with a concept called as STATE. State clinics are basically which have an enhanced concept of sensory adaptive aspects, where they're able to like modify the dental clinic in a sensory aspect, so that even the children, little kids, and people with sensory issues will be able to do it. So the main problem or the main solution which they propose is altering the lights and the other kinds of tactile visuals in them. So we just took a part of it, and apart from that, we also added snoozle-in lights. Snoozle-in lights are medically used when we stay in cases of epileptic cases. We use these lights, very bright lights will be given to them so that they will not go into their episodes. And also, visual distraction is one golden point which is being used so far in all kinds of all strata or all ages. To reduce anxiety, visual distraction is one thing all the dentists do. So similarly, we can have a visual distraction attached to the DAT chair, which I said, in front of them like a top screen. And this fish bubble appearance is nothing but the ones which can be present on the dental chairs. That is the texture of that dental chair, the material which we make can be in fish bubble appearance, because these big objects tend to reduce the anxiety among ADHD and autistic children. And also we can have something called as memory foams used. Since the memory foam is nothing but once you sit over there, all of us would have heard of this memory chairs and memory foam chairs. So why are they present? They're basically for diabetic and other people where the pressure needs to be recorded. So once the pressure is recorded, every time they sit on it, the pressure which is already being sensed, the amount, they will not have any other discomfort. So every time they sit on the chair, they will not feel it is new. So especially for an autistic child, whenever they come across a new person, they tend to have some kind of inhibition, they shy away. So if we are able to give them something which is already having a memory of them, then that is going to create a first level, break the first level of barrier and create a first level of comfort with them. So these are all the few aspects which we can modify. And if, like I said, I can keep talking. When as a dentist, it is us who's going to invest in our clinic to make all these changes. So all these minimal changes which I said. So basically, when we talk about setting up a clinic, we need around 5 to 7 lakhs minimum to set up a very good clinic. Even less than that, I assure you, we can make all these changes and modifications so that even with 3 to 5 lakhs is the maximum quote I can give you for you to make a smart dental clinic. And I think it is high time, instead of setting up a clinic, the establishment of a smart dental clinic is more important, because there is rise in geriatric population as well as a rise in the disability population. So whenever we talk about something, it has to be inclusive. So like sir said, the first line is inclusive, then comes the line of accessibility. So all these modification and changes which could be done to your dental clinic is nothing, actually very less when compared to the amount which you want to strive in future. So, like I said, we have seen a lot of modifications, and there are a lot of other options as well. So, why you need to choose this smart dental clinic or the smart clinic? I have listed few points from the dentist as well as the patient aspects. But to put it very simple, the first point is, like I said, if at all I have to use patient with wheelchair comes, I have something called as an extra attachment for his neck so that I will make him sit and put that attachment. I can do the procedure. But like I said, the duration, it will be restricted, and the patient is subjected to some kind of discomfort because he has to either lean backward or the rest which is being put up has to be sturdy. So, but when we consider this dad chair, he's going to be in his wheelchair. He's not going to have any discomfort. The one he's already has accustomed to it, so there is not going to be something new for him to learn or relearn. And then he can sit there for a longer time because he's used to sitting in that wheelchair, and we can also do comfortably the procedure. So the first point. And second point is, if at all I have to set up another exclusive place for people who are coming in wheelchair, I need to have extra space. Extra space is going to be extra money. But whereas this dad chair, if you're going to incorporate in your clinic, it's going to be a single space which is being occupied as a single dental chair, and it could be used for both the people. So you save space, you save money. Third point is transferring them from a wheelchair to a dental chair. Few cases it is easier to do it, but whereas there are literature which says that during this transfer there is spinal injury seen, cervical injury seen. So at the end, what are we doing? We are breaching ethics, right? So in ethics, there is one strong point to say to do no harm. Rather than doing good, we should not do harm. But here, while transferring, we tend to do harm without our knowledge. This could be avoided. That is, and the transfer is avoided. So the stress, the anxiety from the practitioner aspect as well as the patient aspect is reduced. And more importantly, the patient feels he doesn't feel dependent, he feels independent. He feels he can do something on his own. That is, he can go to the clinic on his own, he can use his wheelchair which he's comfortable with, make himself accommodative to the dental chair, take the treatment, go to his home. So something he can do on his own increases his self-confidence and also improves his quality of life. So overall, if we are able to give a smart dental clinic, it not just enhances their dental health, but also their mental health, their physical health, and comprehensive oral care in terms of both gender and oral health is delivered to them. So this way, this smart dental clinic is something which all of us has to take care. So, and technically speaking as well, the power supply and also the amount in which how far the person, what is the weight the dental chair, the smart chair can hold, everything is similar to that of a commercially available dental chair. So this is just a tabulation of comparison. As you can see that most of them it has an efficient power supply and it is lightweight. So every time you remove it and place it, you don't have to have so much of strength to do it. So it is something a single doctor can do without an aid of an assistant. And it has got other sensory adaptive attachment which adds on and increases the horizon of treating the number of patients. And patient transfer is not being present, and it occupies, like I said, less space, so less cost. So this concept of the smart dental clinic is useful not only from the aspect of a clinician, but also when we talk in terms of aspect of a patient, it enhances their utilization capacity. So like I said, this is just the journey I've traveled so far, and this is what we have contributed from our end to make dentistry accessible and inclusive. So the dad chair and the sensory concept, which and all I talked about, I think they're accessible because I am able to treat both general population as well as the other population who feel that are being left out, and they are affordable. Like I said, the cost is not going to be higher. It's rather half of what I'm going to invest in my commercially available dental chair. It is accommodating various population. It is being found acceptable from the small pilot study which we have done. So there is no sense of discomfort to them, and it is available commercially in one of the clinical centers, and it can also be made available by us. But since we have the idea patent, if at all you need orders or something, we can make it for you, and this is something which is availably commercial. So this construct and this entire journey which we have traveled, I just put it in a nutshell for some period, and this will not. I need to acknowledge the entire SocioDent team because one thing I need to definitely tell here, whenever I start off with something, some kind of an idea, Dr. Stewart sir has always been with me, and he was the one who will encourage me. He is one friend whom I can talk about this every time. So thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity to talk here. And I need to thank the entire audience for spending your precious time over here for this different kind of webinar and being the first one by SocioDent. Thank you so much, everyone. And I would like to thank the entire dental fraternity who was behind me, my guide, my mentor, my staff, everyone who was there to support me and guide me throughout to what I am today. And also to the rest of the speakers who are there with me, who have been patiently listening to me despite being someone who's more elder and expert in the field. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And if at all you have any questions, I think I've finished that a little early. I can take one or two questions right now, or I think I planned it after the all speakers. That I'm also. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Lakshmi. We saw your journey from your research to a product. It was very wonderful. They call it translational research, right? Where you start from academic research, but then you transfer it to something which is useful for the community. I think that is much needed in today's dentistry, and that's what you're doing. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best for your future works. And as you said, we can take the questions in the end after all the speakers finish. And I know we have a lot of very experienced faculty here. We have a lot of experienced dentists here. Maybe you may have some points to share. We can have that in the last 15 minutes after 12:45. And also you can post your questions in the chat box. So you can post your questions in the chat box. And some of you haven't renamed yourself. I'm sorry if you're facing any difficulty. Many of you, the name is just registered dentist. So if you can just rename yourself with your name, that will be really helpful. And now I'm going to the second speaker that we have. We have Dr. Divya Karthikeyan. In a very short notice, she agreed to be on this panel, and we thank her for that. And she's an experienced periodontist, and she finished her BDS from GDC here, Tamil Nadu, and MDS from Kozhikode. And she has worked as a senior resident and has published many papers in pediatrics. She'll be able to talk about it. And they have a clinic in Virugambakam, Chennai, Smiles Value. So I loved what it said on their website. So I put it down here. She loves to work with little smiles and make for a zero cavity future. So that's what she was talking. When I spoke to her also, she was telling I'll talk mostly on the preventive aspect, because that is more important for the persons with disabilities and children with disabilities, the target group she works with. So she'll be focusing more on preventive aspects. She has a very interesting presentation. So over to you, ma'am, for your time. Ma'am, you need to unmute yourself. I'm just. Yes. Are you able to do it now? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And actually, even like the participants being in clinical practice, I too have many queries. Okay, when managing these special children with disabilities, because as Dr. Lakshmi had already said, the dental chair itself, because establishing a dental setup is very costly, and to make it inclusive for people with special healthcare needs is becoming more tough for dentists, even though they want to do it. So I was really happy to see her dad chair, and I hope it comes soon, and we dentists are able to make use of it, so that our dentistry becomes more an inclusive dentistry. Okay, so even when I was preparing the presentation, I was always having the thought, because many of the dentists here are having an establishment with only a single dental chair, and how much could we help them and all those things. And even when we search, if you see in the Western countries, still they have concentrated and they have made some provisions for the special healthcare. But here, it is still at the virgin level. And I'm happy researchers like Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Rajavalli ma'am, who has initiated and thought that people come into limelight, her project Punnagai. And this all like the virgin stage. And I hope the less privileged population makes good benefit out of it. Thank you, doctor. Now I am just sharing my presentation. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Screen is visible, ma'am. Your video is off. If you want, you can switch it on.
Yes, if you can on it.
Yes, ma'am. From your end, can you switch it on, ma'am? Your video.
So this this is a presentation that is clinically, if a special child comes to your clinic, what can you do? Yeah? So this presentation is mainly focused on that. So as you have registered for this webinar itself shows that you are ready to prepare yourself to accept and make this dentistry inclusive. But the reluctance is due to the inadequacy in the infrastructure and I think even some basic measures which we can do in spite, even in our own dental clinics, still many are unaware about that. So I'll be just highlighting those points. So all those who have, we are all at the stage in between, we are ready to help, but still reluctant because of lack of little bit of training or the infrastructure. So this is a study done and it shows the various factors which makes the dentist reluctant in treating the people with disabilities. So in this, if you see in this graph, it is mainly the two most common factors is no specialized training to handle them. And we always feel that handling them is a very time consuming procedure. So in a OPD, we have to spend more time for them. And that is one factor which always holds us behind. Of course, the behavior and communication falls the next. But otherwise, we all want to do it. And these are all the various factors. Okay. So, though we all love to handle them, I always feel we should always be empathetic. That is, we should have a hold on ourselves and we try to make the best for them. More than sympathizing and moving very emotionally, I always feel empathy stands at a better point so that we can help them and do the best. So to handle the people with disabilities, the main three factors which always is to be more important is a teamwork. You know, so handling a special child, you need a team, and the team includes both the parent or the caretaker and the physician or the specialty they are in regular consultation, and also suppose we are going under sedation, like under general anesthesia, then we should have a good tie-up. We should be familiar with the sedation availability and with the anesthetists who are doing it and with the sedation centers. Of course, I'll be discussing on the sedation part, the conscious sedation part, which we can have it at our clinic itself. So the teamwork is like comprehensive, which is ourselves along with the parents and with the professional help. And the training part, like what are all the minor procedures we can do. Though many of us have read so much of theories, I think still we don't implement certain simple procedures which we can still do it in our clinic. And of course, a special training for sedation and all those things. And then the flexibility. Flexibility is like with special children or persons with disabilities, you can never say when the patient comes, the treatment will be done that day. Okay. You can have a plan, but still you can always, only at the end of the treatment day, you will know whether you were able to do it successfully. Or even if you are not able to complete the procedure, that doesn't mean it was a failure. No? You made an attempt to be inclusive, but still, because you can have the repetitive or fix an appointment later. And so you should always have a very flexible treatment plan. And also you should have good assistants at your clinic who who have this empathy towards these patients and who handle and who assist you in handling the patients. So regarding the teamwork, as I said, these are all the components like the parents and the consent from the physician is always a must. Though the parents or caretakers, they say we can go ahead with procedures. Suppose the patient is a Down syndrome patient, you want to go for extraction and you know it's going to be a very simple thing. Always a consent from the physician is very important because we don't know the like though we have read and we know all the prophylaxis to be followed or certain medications should be withheld, all those things, still a written consent is very important and documentation is also very important. Why I say is recently we did a GA case of a mentally challenged kid and the kid was having an hemangioma. So hemangioma means in the palate only there was a difference in the discoloration. Exactly at the mid-palatine trapeze, there was a discoloration dividing the palate into two. It was purplish one side and it was pinkish one side. Due to short notice, I'm not able to share those pics now. So, so what happened when we did the GA procedure? The anesthetist was very much interested with why it happens. Though it's an hemangioma, I've never seen like this. So he insisted that to take a photograph of the palate. Otherwise, we were never especially with mentally challenged kids, they don't cooperate and we don't think of taking an intraoral photograph and all. Then what happened was, so it was prior to the procedure, just when the sedation was started, we had taken the picture. And then the procedure was completed, everything was fine. And then I'm calling the patient after 1 week for the review. And that time, because now only the treatment has been undertaken, the parents think that discoloration has happened because of the dental treatment. Because they are noting the posterior part of the palate so keenly only after the full mouth rehabilitation has been done. So they were thinking like it is due to the procedure. Then we showed them the photos. It was the pre-photograph and then the post-treatment also it is the same. It has been always with your kid. So in such cases, consent and documentation is very, very important. Okay. So it is not that it is wrong on the parents' side. They are also very apprehensive. For them also, their child is very special. So they become little this thing. So always a documentation and consent is a must whenever you treat a special children or any medically compromised kids. So again, the treatment plan. How does the treatment plan for persons with disabilities depend? Mainly based on the available infrastructure or the available expertise, and also based on the IQ level of the patient. Okay. So if you have a good infrastructure or if you have a accessibility to general anesthesia, OT and a good team for anesthetist and all, then the treatment plan differs. But suppose you are in a suburb area or where there is no provision for under sedation, then the treatment plan differs. And sometimes we have to withhold certain procedures. So the treatment plan mainly depends upon the available facilities and the available expertise. And again, the IQ level. Some self-care patients, especially the autism kids and some Down syndrome kids, can handle them so easily. Like after like few visits, they become so friendly to you. So you can start initially doing one by one. You can like initially it will be just an examination, and second visit will be just an anterior tooth scaling, and then even we have big stainless steel crowns for kids with autism. Okay, so it depends upon the IQ level and of the patient. Suppose partial care patients, so they need the help of the caretakers. So those patients, if you see, you can handle them only with the help of their caretakers. Okay, so then the what to say, the immobilization, passive or active, those procedures are all incorporated in such things. Total care patients are patients like totally we only have to do everything for them. That is, the caretaker has been doing all the things for them. Then those patients straight away go only under general anesthesia. Okay, on the dental chair, it is not possible. So the treatment plan differs according to this criteria. So then chair side, that is when a special child comes to your clinic, at chair side, what all you can do. And I always stress on the preventive part. I always feel that patients come to us only at the terminal stage, when they have to go for extraction. Only in those cases, the patient is coming. Okay. So in such cases, we have to motivate both the parents or the caretakers regarding the oral hygiene practices, and which will be disclosing, and then some minimally invasive procedures can be performed on our dental chair, and especially for the self-care group, and sometimes even for the partial care group of patients. Emergency procedures, suppose an abscess or swelling, then we have to handle it. We have to go for the access opening and do the draining, of course, with restriction and immobilization of the patient. And we need the immobilization by active or passive method, that is with the assistance of people, or you have this straps or Velcro strips or the towels, making the patient getting immobilized on the dental chair. Emergency procedures, we should see to that, we should try our maximum to handle it. So regarding this oral health education, actually, I believe in this secret book. I know they have this quote, whatever you think, whatever you keep on thinking, you attract. So 1 minute. So sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
So it is like, I was like consecutively having some 4-5 cases of special children, and I had to do it under GA, and they came like either for extraction or for pulpectomy and stainless steel crowns. So, okay, for patients, those who can afford a sedation procedure, those who can afford the OT charges, and if it is charged, still they can get it done. But what about the people who can't afford it financially? So what are all the things we can do for them? It's like at least the preventive part. So my sir, like Dr. Digesh I did my PG from Kerala. So Dr. Digesh is assistant professor in Trivandrum. And so when I spoke to him, then we thought we should come up with a booklet for in awareness for the oral health practice for the what among the caretakers and among the parents regarding this oral hygiene techniques. So when we were searching, as you all know, like these are the different like things which are the powered toothbrush is still only the elite population can buy. The normal population cannot afford the powered toothbrushes. I think it's costing around some 1,500. So what is the best which can be given to people who can't afford such costly oral hygiene aids? So then we were thinking there was this tennis ball and all this things were coming up. One thing which we felt was still okay was with the cycle handle, no, the cycle handle grip. So actually we were planning to conduct a camp at Salem, and we were planning, it is your normal manual toothbrush, and inside the cycle handle grip, you pour the white cement and place the brush and allow it to set, so that this is like which some even the less privileged population can afford. So because their dexterity is so much affected, so I felt this was the more economical option for the people. So I think next month when we conduct camps, we will be able to see more of the results and how their oral hygiene things have improved. Okay. So whenever patients come to you, I think you should stress more on the oral hygiene practices and give them practical solutions. For them who like, the positions also, many don't take the proper positions while doing the brushing technique. Okay. So like the patients for the wheelchair. So they many of them don't know that they have to be behind. They always be at the front and try to control the kid, and they try to hold the hands, and the front of the patient is not a favorable position for us. So either at the lap or standing behind or on the sofa. So because some kids like all this bean bag, which some kids like the bean bag, so making them sit in the bean bag and doing the brushing. So, and also we should insist that brushing need not be at the wash basin itself, because some kids might find it very difficult at the restrooms and all. So it can be in the common, in the hall, or whichever place they like, at the garden, and they can have a particular vessel which allow them to spit and all those things. So regarding this positions, and we should highlight to them more so that they undertake proper positions. And also we should check on whether they are really doing the brushing daily, because even the normal kids, we especially working parents, they don't get time to do the brushing. So in such kids, oral health is always a neglected part. So we should keep on stressing the importance of the oral health and how the oral health improves the overall nutrition, because they are kids who can't express their pain. They can't tell their problems in words. So it is our duty to stress more on the oral hygiene practices. So when the brushing is like cannot be done properly, then the use of mouth rinses is compulsory. Mouth rinses is like many kids have a difficulty in rinsing because of the swallowing, or rinsing is very difficult for them. So in such kids, what we can tell is you have a nice good cotton white cloth dipped in the mouth rinse, and then you scrub it over the tooth surface and over the gums. Okay, and then you wipe it also with another cloth. So this mouth rinse, this chemomechanical removal of the debris is very important, and especially the chlorhexidine mouth rinses seem to have, by the studies, very good effects in improving the oral hygiene. And this amine fluoride, among the different fluoride mouth rinses, studies have shown that Amflor is the one which is commercially available, and the component is amine fluoride, which has more retention of fluoride to the tooth surface. So such mouth rinses, we should advise the patient to use it regularly. Then regarding the remineralizing agents, so due to we know many kids come with the hypoplasia. So remineralizing again can be classified as the fluoridated toothpaste, and there are some components, this Anafix or GC tooth mouse, that is with the calcium and phosphate. They call it as Recalden technology. Again, GC tooth mouse is a bit costlier version. Anafix is an economical option. So based on the financial situation of the family, you can advise them with what is best for them regarding and what they can afford. And stress prevention is better than cure, and you should always stress that. So this, I think this part, Dr. Lakshmi had explained it so well. Some few points which I found interesting was some clinics, I don't know whether in India they have it, some clinics for visually challenged people, they have their information. We usually give instructions, one printed copy to the patients. They have braille cards, information printed braille cards for visually challenged people. So such things, some small things which in our own way we can do. And even the audio recording of the instructions. Now, at least I think audio recording is more easier. WhatsApp and all those things have come. The instructions can be audio recorded and be shared to the visually challenged people. So this is all things which we can do. And all these oral hygiene instructions also we can audio record and pass it on to our patients who come so that they are able to hear it whenever they can, and they can recollect things. So these are few things. And regarding always for the wheelchair to enter the clinic, you need a very broad entrance. Again, for the patient to accommodate also, you need that space is very much needed for the wheelchair patient. So a big entrance, and the dental operatory should also be so wide so that even if the dad chair, as ma'am has suggested, is coming, still we should accommodate the wheelchair inside the dental clinic. So there should be that slope for the wheelchair to enter and all those things. So that is one thing. And for the visually challenged, they say the floors, not too much of mats and not too much of elevations, so that it is very difficult for the visually challenged to follow safely inside the operatory. So this is one thing commonly which we are able to do now. So if it is kids, still we can shift the child from the wheelchair onto our chair, or we can have the child being actively immobilized by the mother or the parent or the caretaker. This is the common thing we are able to do. And I think you all know, like crossing over the right leg over both the knees of the child and then holding the hands. Of course, you need other assistance also for the head stabilization. Few procedures can still be done in such kids, especially when it comes to emergencies. We need assistance to help us to complete the procedure. So this is one thing, like it is available in Western part where it is just a recliner. So the wheelchair is accommodated in this recliner, and only that attachment of the light and all those things, the suction unit is by the side, and the dental procedure is performed. Again, this is only for the people with disability. It doesn't include the normal population, whereas the dad chair, which ma'am suggested, included both the population. So this is one thing, shifting the patient from when it comes to adults, it's becoming difficult. They lift the patient in such way, and that is what ma'am said. When they shift like this, there have been cases reported of spinal injuries and all those things. So we need more innovations and more better options to accommodate and make these patients get the treatment done. So this can be, I think everybody, all of us can have some comfortable cushions and like beanbag thing on dental chair, especially with the people of autism. They like such things, that comforting. So if you can see, there is a strap also attached to immobilize the patient. This can be done in our normal dental chair itself. So from the receptionist, everybody should be empathetic towards the people with the special needs. So especially the history should be taken very clearly. So over the telephonic appointment fixing itself, we should tell them to bring all the records and also get the history noted down so that we can plan things accordingly. And what is their condition? What is the special health condition they have? So that we are prepared ourselves to accept the patient and plan accordingly. And always early in the day, when the OPD is of less rush, it is better to invite the patient, and always send a message like once they have come, even though the treatment is not completed, they are going back. I think we should send a message of appreciation so that they feel again coming back and doing things. If it is going to be a child, the caretaker or the parent gets motivated. So when you tell after 3 months review, they still think of it and come back to you. And again, informed consent should be obtained. So the oral examination can be done with use of mouth props and the blocks which you have. And always, all things you use, you see to that the floss is connected, the dental floss is tied to it. The mouth prop, if it is with the chain, still okay. If not, some dental floss or a thread should be tied to the mouth prop. And then the mold mouth prop, I'll be showing the figure. That is more it is practically easy. It keeps proper retraction of the soft tissue and also opens the mouth, so that is more helpful. And regarding the oral radiograph, better to avoid at the first visit because they stimulate the gag reflex and all those things, and the whole first visit becomes too clumsy and sometimes a disappointment. Unless you are confident and you feel the patient can undergo the radiographic investigation easily, you can go for the IOPAs. And the best is the OPG, so that one shot you have a view of the entire oral cavity. And dental prophylaxis still lies, I know the patients of self-care population can still understand things. So with them, you can make them do the tell show do technique and then try to do it. Topical fluoride application is still easier because the varnishes and all can be applied as just a paint on technique, and you can still do it in the first visit, but the suction, proper suction should be there. So regarding the radiographic examination, they say the normal IOPA films, it is very difficult to hold. So they asked us to use the bite wing, which has the tab extension, and to that tab the floss is connected. But I consider OPG to be the best. And sometimes the clinical knowledge, whether we really need a radiographic examination, unless it is needed, I think we need not go for a radiographic examination. So this is that scissor type one, no? That is the mold prop, which helps in both retraction of the soft tissue and also keeps the mouth opened. And though it looks very but I feel it's the most comfortable one. So this is regarding all this you would have seen in your videos only, all these Velcro straps or the towel and tape or the extra assistant. I think the extra assistant is the one which we are all most commonly using. So regarding what are all the minimally invasive procedures we can do. So the remineralizing agents, comes the topical fluoride application. So with the topical fluoride application, always the varnishes are the best because they have better retention and paint on technique, and that is more useful. So you can select the varnish which you are going to use. Now, recently what we use is the Embrace, which has the calcium phosphate and the fluoride component, or the MI varnish by the GC company that also has both the calcium phosphate and the fluoride component. Fit and fissure sealants. When the child or the patient becomes more accommodative, and then because it's the posterior most teeth and proper isolation is needed, when you're confident that the patient has developed a rapport and the patient will cooperate, you can use the fit and fissure sealants. And regarding the others, you can see the future slides. So the chemomechanical caries removal. So this doesn't use the aeroter. So it is almost like the atraumatic respirative treatment procedure, you can say. So that gel is the Papakari one which is available. It has the papaya extract, which creates an effervescence. You can check with the components. I don't want to go much into the theory. And it removes the infected dentin. So only the infected dentin is removed, and over that you can place the restoration. And preferably it should be glass ionomer cement so that it enables the remineralizing property. So in GIC also, light tube GIC has better retention. So if the child can cooperate more, you can go in for light tube GIC. Then regarding the minimally invasive pulpal treatment, okay, with this what you can have is like So there's something called Hall's technique, and then one is called the LSTR, that is the lesion sterilization tissue reaction. The Hall's technique, you all know that pulpectomy and then placing the, I'll come, I think the slide comes after. Then another one respiration which we want to speak about is the silver diamond fluoride. Okay, the silver diamond fluoride is one recently which is being used, especially during the pandemic times. It was helpful to many patients, you know, who can't afford the GA and the OTs were closed. And so in such cases, the silver diamond fluoride is again, it will be dispensed in a like eardrop bottle like thing. You just dispense 1 or 2 drops on the, there is no need of aerator and things. You just dispense 1 or 2 drops over the decayed part. That is, you excavate using the spoon excavator, you excavate whichever is the fluffy thing coming off, and over that you place the silver diamond fluoride. The only disadvantage of this is it has that black discoloration. So it looks like an anesthetic appearance comes, but it catches hold of the progression of the caries. So very much needed in enamel and dentinal caries cases. And when the patients are very uncooperative, you can't plan for a GIC or you can't plan for a composite restorations, you can go in for this silver diamond fluoride. So they say the silver diamond fluoride increases the uptake of fluoride more than the varnish and the APF gel. So this is how the appearance is. No, this black part is due to silver diamond fluoride. But then you can see in the A picture, the caries has developed and is at the cervical part. It prevents the further progress and prevents the pulpal involvement. Okay. So this is the Hall's technique. Hall's technique is like there is like it is the procedure for like till the dentinal caries. Okay, and the patient is not cooperative. You can't like if you do a drilling, then it might go in for landing an exposure of the pulp. In such cases, what we do is the crown is just adapted to the tooth structure. So the concept for this is that we prevent the microbes and the further food substances impinging on the decayed part, and this stainless steel crown acts as a protection. So the progression of caries is arrested. And in many cases, because the child is uncooperative, not able to give a proper restoration like GIZ and composite restoration, if you send off the patient, this stainless steel crown will be this Hall's technique. No, there's not much of crown preparation also, and this is like a very short technique. So this is more helpful when the child is uncooperative. Next is the LSTR, that is the lesion sterilization and tissue reaction. This is again when the child is very uncooperative for the pulpectomy, when you can't drill and go for all those things. What is this lesion? You use the triple antibiotic paste. Triple antibiotics means the 3 components which are used are the ciprofloxacin, metronidazole, and minocycline. So this is how, like this, though the picture is from the net, in our PG time, we used to buy these tablets, remove the outer peel color, and powder it with our mortar and pestle, and we used to combine it. The vehicle can be either a ciprofloxacin ointment, that is a liquid part, or the normal saline or anything, and you make it into that consistency. So you see a grossly decayed teeth, and you know it is pakka a pulpal involvement. Still, the child won't cooperate for much of the procedures. This triple antibiotic paste is placed as a medicament till the pulp chamber, like a pulpotomy, and then you give a superficial restoration, GIC, and this can catch some time. No, you need not go in for premature extraction because the space maintenance is very much needed. So in such cases, this procedure, triple antibiotic procedure, can be used. Minocycline causes discoloration of the teeth, especially even in trauma cases where the patient won't cooperate and for epexification and all. In such cases also, you can use this triple antibiotic paste for the epexification procedure too. And we have seen the healing of periapical lesions with the use of this triple antibiotic base. So on the whole, when you plan a comprehensive treatment plan, and whether you're going under sedation or the child is cooperative and you are going to handle the child on the chair, use a bit stronger restorations rather than growing for a proximal filling with amalgam or with GIC. Go if it is a proximal involvement or if it is a multi-surface lesion, going for stainless steel crowns, which will be more helpful. And in then the pulpotomy technique rather than doing the pulp capping procedures, because such patients, it's very difficult for us to again bring them back to the dental chair or bring them back for sedation and do the procedures. And sutures, you use the resorbable sutures if any surgical procedures are planned. So now coming to the sedation part. So this is like, I think, at Chennai, we are very lucky. We have centers where we can take our patients and go it and do it under the sedation, under general anesthesia. And IV sedation is also safer at the proper setup. Nitrous oxide sedation is what we can get it done with in our clinic. And here there is Dr. Roshan and Dr. Hariharan. They have this every 4 months or 5 months, they are conducting a course which is really useful for both general dentists and the pediatric dentists. And this nitrous oxide sedation is useful for both the normal population and our special children who can follow instructions. Kids who cannot follow instructions or people who cannot follow the oral instructions cannot be done under nitrous oxide sedation. Okay, they have to be performed only under general anesthesia. So this is the nitrous oxide sedation unit. So a very safe procedure. And once the child inhales the gas or the person inhales the gas, they immediately go into a sedation state and they cooperate for the procedure very well. But suppose the child is too crying or the patient is very uncooperative, cannot follow your oral instructions, this sedation will be a failure. And complications with nitrous oxide sedation till date is nil. Okay, so nitrous oxide sedation can be very safely done in our own dental clinic. So this now I'm just brushing up through. I think I've taken more time also. So people with intellectual disability. So for such patients, they can still follow. So be slow with them. Give instructions very one by one instructions. You tell them open the mouth. I'll put the suction. They can't understand. First, do the tell show do technique repetitive as many times as you can. If you are planning for oral prophylaxis procedure and all, make them feel that rubber cup, how soft it is, and you can use it on some rough stainless steel object like your coin or something. You can make them feel it before the procedure and after the rubber cup, how smooth it is, and explain to them how the tooth will also look polished and how nice it will be. And next, with Down syndrome patients, if the patient can follow you and you have developed a rapport with them, they are your wonderful patients. They'll be very affectionate and they will cooperate with you very well. But when it is not possible, then again, sedation is our only option. And in Down syndrome, always they have this cardiac anomalies. So you should be always careful about it and get the consent when you're performing any procedures. With cerebral palsy patients, if it is short procedures, try not to shift them from the wheelchair. Try to do the procedure under the wheelchair. If it's just going to be a simple one tooth extraction, which you'll be getting it completed, or you're just planning a very simple topical fluoride application or something, you can make them feel comfortable in their own dental chair instead of shifting them and making them very foreign towards your dental clinic. But for longer procedures, still we need a proper dental chair. So this again, you should be careful about your gag reflex and all. And stabilization also, don't make them feel hurt. Whatever you do, you say, you are trying to help them in improving their oral health and in helping them to relieve their pain. So just be empathetic towards them, and also see to that, because by mistake we are using sharp instruments, even the probe, don't prick or stimulate the response. Some untoward movement can stimulate the response. So the child so far who was cooperative can become uncooperative. So try to be very slow and calm when handling such patients. And all the noises or lights, all those stimuli should be avoided. Of course, music is very helpful, very calming music you can have in the background. Seizure disorders, you see to that, you check on their pre-medications, whether they have taken the medications properly and all those things. And use of mouth froth is very mandatory. And fixed appliances, if you're planning for ortho treatment and all, it's like fixed, even if it is going to be a twin block which you're going to deliver, be it a luted one, fixed one. The removable appliances are not advisable in case of seizure patients. And most of them will have this gingival enlargement, and of course you can get you have to go in for the surgical procedure. And with autism also, mostly they are very cooperative, and once you make them feel comfort in your environment, they will follow your instructions and you can get their this thing. If the patient is very uncooperative, again under sedation. So for the visually challenged, I already said, no, they can't see things. So you should always make them feel it. Whatever you are having, you make them feel it so that they know. Suppose it's the mouth mirror, make them feel it in a safer manner so that they know whatever is put into their mouth is very safe. It won't harm them. If you are putting the aerator, make them hear the sound repeatedly and tell them it's just a water pump and all those things. And the aerator, make them feel without the burr so that they don't feel anything sharp, and they know this is what is going to be inside your mouth, and they are confident with your procedure. Okay, and you should be very careful with them. And in case of always, you should treat them very normally. Don't give them any signs of sympathy, which you, especially visually challenged people, are very sensitive to such things. And if possible, you can have braille card instructions in your clinic. And as I said, the taping, the audio recording of the instructions or the treatment plan can be shared with the patient so that they can go home, they can listen to it and assimilate things and then come back to you. And oral hygiene techniques also, you can have models which are like not hurting them, not any not any sharp margins, trying to be more of the softer part. And teach them the oral hygiene techniques, how they should handle the brush, in which angle, and all those things you teach them. So in visually challenged, trauma is very common among them. So be prepared to handle the trauma cases and do things. So with the hearing impairment, also, it is like they can't hear your instructions. So when there's like when either written way or what sort of communication they can understand. Sign language, if you know the sign language, it's very good. Otherwise, the written component, and if it is going to be kids, the drawing makes them more fun, or any videos, all those things which has the motion, which can educate them and let them know what you are going to do. Okay. So all this patting is all very reassuring to the kids, especially kids with hearing impairment. And when handling these hearing impairment kids, the aorta vibration, you should check on with your earpiece. Otherwise, they get suddenly startled, and once the fear comes, it's very difficult to have them on the chair. This is, I think, a bit of out of topic, but still, I just thought I'll just add a little bit of it. Regarding the cleft lip, cleft palate patients, this nasoalveolar molding technique, this should be done at the very initial stage. That is when the kid is between the 2 to 8 weeks only. So the immediately after the birth, there's some level of estrogen is still inside the kid's system, which helps molding of the cartilages. We all know that the cleft lip, cleft palate surgery start only by 6 weeks. So before that, you can mold the cartilages. So the gaps between the cleft lip or palate, just the normal is just holding them together with the steri tip, can have more impact on the outcome of the surgical procedure. It will be more aesthetic, and this can be done at the very initial stage only. So this appliance, this is called the nasoalveolar molding procedure, which just like you place this. This slide has more clear picture. This acrylic plate tube, obturator, it acts both as an obturator and as an appliance. This nasal stent, that extension goes into the nasal lobe and molds the cartilage. This this screw sometimes is incorporated to reduce the gaps. Usually expansion screw, what we do, we increase the gaps, but in this we totally open the screw and make the appliance, and with every visit we close the screw so that the gaps get reduced. This is again for unilateral, bilateral. So like what many innovations like with us, Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Stewart are helping us practitioners. They are more needed to help us handle people with special needs. And sometimes these mobile dental clinics, I used to think a dental van which can go to even the elderly population or the mentally challenged population whom they can't easily come out of their houses to the dental clinics. I think for them, the mobile dental clinics should be available. So these are the dreams of my future. And thank you all for listening so with patience. And thanks for the Sociodent team and Dr. Rajavalli ma'am for referring me to them. And thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Actually, it was very, very insightful presentation. As many of them don't know the details of how to actually handle the special children. Whenever someone visits, they immediately think, oh, what should I do? Whom should I call? But I think the insights that you have given would help a lot of people. And I really like the point which you mentioned in the beginning, where you said there's no point in being emotional. Rather, we should be empathetic and we should be able to understand and how to handle each one of these children with special needs. The last few slides were very useful, because if someone has to go through the books for these, I think it's going to be very difficult for them, but you have put the nutshell of all these things, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Please stay back for the FAQs if there are any. And now, without any delay, I'll hand it over to Rajavalli ma'am. I'll just give a brief introduction. She wears many hats. She does a lot of different things, but one of the main things that she's leading in this relevant to this topic is Project Punnahai, where she's working with spastic children. I know a lot of my batchmates, a lot of my senior staff who go and work with her, and they give their service, and they do a lot of free treatments also. So it's a great work that's happening here in Chennai. If any of you from other places, maybe when you're visiting here, you can come and meet ma'am with her permission, of course, and then learn what they are doing. I also have quickly shared their Facebook page for those who actually want to see more about their work and actually follow them. So this is Project Punnahai's page. I'll share the link in the chat box also. So even recently they had the Diwali celebrations at Lotus Foundation. So many different activities that ma'am does with special children. Of course, during the lockdown, she had some challenges, but she was again able to get back and start working on it. Over to you, ma'am. Please share us your experience on Project Punnahai and how your dream came true. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon. Yeah, I hope I'm audible. Good afternoon to one and all.
Yes,
I always believe in the same thing what Dr. Divya said. The law of attraction and the universe, it connects the like-minded people. I'm very happy today. Whatever Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Divya said, everything was such a lovely presentation, and I'm sure the future for all these challenged people is going to be really good one. Sure. So before I start with what Project Punnagai is about, let me tell you today our Chief Minister in Tiruvannamalai has inaugurated a center for spinal cord injury patients, rehabilitation center, and in that it's called Inspire, and in that the dental unit is the brainchild of Dr. Bijwan, and Dr. Bijwan is a dentist and assistant professor from Sri Mukambika Institute of Dental Sciences, and he has designed a completely wall-mounted dental unit where only the wheelchair access alone will be with the help of the wheelchair, patients can go and get treated. So this inauguration happened tomorrow. You all would be reading it in the newspaper today morning at 10 o'clock. I think that's the reason he couldn't join us for the webinar. So that itself is such a good march towards a bright future for all the challenged people. So that's an exclusive dental clinic for the challenged. So nice, na? So I am sure a lot of people are being empathetic, thinking, dental students and everyone together, they are thinking to be empathetic and about others and their needs. No, we are not, most of us are not concerned about others' needs, but I'm happy these things are happening. So, and one more thing I want to convey to Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Stewart. I was a consultant for IIT Madras. I was a consultant dental surgeon between the year 2004 and 2009. So it's nice to meet, when I hear the word IIT, it's good, nice to recollect the past. Okay, so let me start with Project Punnagai. So in the year 2015, I really thought after completing my duties as a dental surgeon and a mom and daughter-in-law and everything, I thought there should be some purpose in life, not just doing the duties alone. So that's where I thought, okay, I should do something for these special kids. So I volunteered myself to Spastic Society of Tamil Nadu at Taramani. I saw their dental checkup, the setup. It was only one single chair and not much. One dentist was coming once a month or twice a month. That's it. So since I already worked in IIT, that time I had some contacts with Balaji Dental College and Ragas Dental College. And incidentally, Dr. Shankar Narayanan, an endodontist who used to visit my clinic as an endodontist, he suggested me, why not come and talk with the community health department HOD, Dr. Madan Kumar. So that's how we went and talked to him. And he started sending Ragas students to help me in Spastic Society of Tamil Nadu. And that's why from there, our journey started. And we were able to screen many, around 450 students, all under the autism spectrum. And it was very effective. And few people whom we couldn't manage in that single chair there, we used to do it in Ragas Dental College. We had some transport systems. It was, I really want to convey my gratitude to Dr. Madan Kumar. He really helped us. So after that, the journey went to Balaji Dental Hospital, and Dr. Ponnudurai sir, HOD, he also helped us. Same way students used to come and help to screen and do the treatment for all the spastic kids in the Spastic Society of Tamil Nadu at Taramani. So the main aim of Project Punnagai is to provide quality dental treatment to all the spastic kids. But again, here the problem what I faced there was the funds. Like what Dr. Divya said, noise and GA, under GA, we could do. But what about the money? Most of the children were from a low economic group. So that is when we decided we need some funds. So I used to post it on my page in Facebook Project Punnagai, and many friends, many dentists came forward to help, and we could accumulate some fund, and we helped those people. Then again, I did some research, and I was talking to the few people in the Spastic Society of Tamil Nadu, and they said there is an insurance called Niramaya Insurance, for which if you pay 500 per child, you get a insurance for 1 lakh coverage. In that, for the dental treatment, would be 2,500 rupees only. Okay, I said, okay, at least that will be better. So we started telling that awareness was not there. So we started telling people, the public and those patients, regular normal patients who used to come to my clinic, we started telling them, if you, instead of getting one pizza for a weekend, you can, insure a child. So they will use it. So that was the other thing I did. And then regarding how a dental clinic should be accessible, those things Dr. Divya and Dr. Lakshmi both have said. So the main point I want to, because of the lack of time, the main point I want to focus here is that we need a smart dental chair like what Dr. Lakshmi said in at least one government hospital in our state. We definitely need that. And all private colleges, please make one smart dental chair or at least a wall mounted thing. So if any of the HODs or any of the professors listening to this webinar, please talk to your administrators and please do it. We definitely need one thing. Then second thing is, as Divya madam said, whenever you give an appointment to a challenged person, be it physically challenged or a autistic person or anyone, see to that they come in the morning only, and you don't give any other appointment on that day. I do it like that only in my clinic. And it's better to have a separate entrance or for the ramp, and I don't have any costly ramps. So I custom made my ramp with an ordinary wood, whatever I could. This happened about 5 years ago, and I was searching for when would I get anything, any new dental chairs or anything. I used to think that was 5 years ago, and I'm so happy. Today, I'm meeting Dr. Divya through this forum, and the smart dental chair, it's a boon, really it's a boon. And those of the dentists who have not set up your clinic, please invest only in a smart dental chair. That's my advice. Even if it's costly, it's okay, but you don't have to, think again and reconvert your clinic, okay? That's one thing. The second thing I want to tell you is the noise or whatever it is, the problem is the funds. How much the operation theater cost itself will be around 10 to 12,000. Many parents cannot afford it. That is the problem. So we definitely need some funds. I really wish the government, they create some schemes for all the challenged people. So it would be really benefit them. This Niramaya is 2,500 rupees for the dental. What will they do? So someone has to talk in the upper level. That is one. Second, all the DCA curriculum also has to change. How many of us know how to treat a challenged person when we are in a CRRI? You just let me know. No. So you understand, from the CRRI level itself, we should be trained. We should have a one posting person. So those things, the DCA curriculum has to change, and then everything would change. It's a long process, but not impossible. It is possible. So these are the few points I just want to add. The rest, both Divya and Dr. Lakshmi has said. So you can follow my page, Project Punnagai page. And now I am looking, for the past 4 years, I have been looking for a pedodontist who he or she has a trust attached to his or her clinic. So that for these spastic kids, directly I can post it on my page and I can refer to them, and things can be done very easily, without any effort. So in a nutshell, I just complete my presentation in short. Thank you so much, Dr. Stewart. Really, it was such a good experience, and I would definitely promote the smart chair to all my friends. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your extensive work over 5 years in a very short time. I know people should look more into it. I've shared the link in the chat box, Project Punnagai. People on Facebook can actually check it out. So before I open up the platform for questions, I think I'll allow all the participants to unmute. I think now they should not be. Yeah. So the questions that came on the Google form were all the same questions were there. So what I'll do is I'll join them together and I'll post that question to all three of you. The same question is how, as a general dentist, I can help people with disability. And the second thing is how I can actually make my clinic or things like inclusive and accessible. So this we just had 4 or 5 questions from the Google form. Almost out of 97 registrations, we had around 5 questions. In that, how can I as a dentist contribute towards creating accessible and inclusive dentistry? How to make dentistry accessible? I think the same question, how to create awareness. One more thing is how to create awareness, how to help people with disabilities. So I think much about it has been, we spoke much about it, I think, but I'll put the same question to all three of you. Maybe this time we'll start from Rajavalli ma'am, and then we'll go to Dr. Dr. Divya ma'am, and then Dr. Lakshmi. And so that all of you can share your quick insights, and then we'll take questions from the audience now.
So the simple thing is, I'll just consolidate all the 5 questions together. Okay. So every day you are posting or tweeting something in your Facebook. So why don't you tell about where your clinic is, how accessible it is? Okay. Talk something about having ramps in all the clinics, or bigger doors or something. Just say about that. Second, go to the nearby, when you go for a walk near your home, look out for special schools or some places where they are struggling. Do a local dental checkup. In that way, you can really improve the awareness. Also, you can tell them these things are there. You can do that. Then what else, Shiva? Next one, any other thing?
Yes, ma'am. Mostly, how do I spread awareness? You've spoken about it, ma'am, and how to, as a general dentist, how to help your persons with disabilities. Maybe some people have a feeling that.
Yeah, general dentists, I really feel all private dental colleges should start continuing dental educations on special needs, and you understand,
Yes.
that will be much better. And most of the things what Dr. Divya said, I don't know. Actually, it was new to me. So I'm sure we have to put that ego separately, and even the old dentists should come and start attending the continuing dental education. And that's how you can improve. You know, everyone has to learn again. There's nothing wrong in relearning, unlearning, and again relearning it. Okay, there's nothing wrong in that. There should be more forums, and we definitely need the specially trained people to deal with such challenged people. So it's better. There are so many courses they are doing. Why not start a course and train for this? That is my suggestion.
Yeah, thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, yeah, Divya ma'am, do you have any thoughts on this? You're on mute, ma'am.
Yeah, like as a general dentist, what I can do, no, all those minimal invasive procedures which I said, they are all very simple procedures and very affordable. The materials are not costly at all and very easy to do. So I think we should do, especially the silver diamond fluoride, chemomechanical caries removal with a PEPA carry, and the most important is stress on the brushing technique, so that we see to that there is no plaque, so that there is no decay. So we should repeatedly keep telling on the oral hygiene techniques. Once we have, I think that is the most initial step, and once we are able to help them with that, almost 50% of their problems will be solved. There won't be any formation of decay, and why will they have the pain and all those things? Of course, the orthodontic treatment is all there for the aesthetic. When I was doing my PG, we had given removable appliance for a intellectually disabled kid, but still who can follow the instructions, and her proclination was all corrected. But that all goes for the aesthetic part. But these simple procedures, we curb it at the initial stage, both financially and also health-wise. I think it will be a better solution. But that is where we all don't stress it at all. And I think we should repeatedly keep telling that.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you for emphasizing on preventive dentistry for special children. I think that is a very critical area. Dr. Lakshmi, you have anything to add?
I think all of the points have been beautifully displayed by the experts. So just one more thing, like there is nothing like a general dentist and a specialized dentist when it comes to this field of special care dentistry. Like how Dr. Rajavalli ma'am said, we don't have a special care. Do pediatric dentists are trained to undergo these procedures and how to go ahead with it. There has to be a specially streamed line, like a special care dentistry, so that they will be well trained. And the basic part, like I said, focus on more on prevention, creating more awareness. There is something called the tactile books. I think we and Dr. Shiva sir were working on it when we did our assistive technology courses. So instead of the normal models which we create, we had something called the tactile books, which is being especially done for those people to learn something new. So those things could be introduced in your dental clinic, so that they will have an awareness that dentistry is not something they need to be like afraid of. This is something which they can do on their own. It's simple as their toothbrushing. So that is something which I just want to put out.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Lakshmi. We are just 10 minutes past our scheduled time. I think we can take a few questions. If at all we have some things from the audience, you can post it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourselves and ask. Please don't feel shy. It is your forum. All of us are dentists, so please ask any questions if you have. Otherwise, we'll be closing in another 5 minutes based on the questions. I know there will be a starting problem. Someone starts and many people will be asking questions. Okay.
Looks like all of them are hungry, huh?
Yes. A lot of familiar names are there. I don't want to call out anyone. But if you want to ask any questions, please, you can ask now. Because all three of the experts have worked with special children for a long time, special people with disabilities, so that if you have any particular questions, you can ask them. And of course, they are approachable. So even beyond this meeting, you can reach out to them. I'll just share the screen. If there are, in the meantime, if any questions comes, we can take it up. I'll use the last couple of minutes to talk about us, what we do. At Sociodent, we are doing this, So at Sociodent, we are just a very early stage startup. As I told, we are associated with IITM Research Park. We are working on some innovations. One is, of course, oral hygiene solution for people who cannot brush by themselves. As Divya ma'am told, of course, something like a modified brush, with a cycle handle, with the universal cuff that people have, is definitely useful. But if the patient is beyond that, they have no dexterity or poor dexterity, then we are coming up with a mouthpiece-based oral hygiene device, and we have finished the prototype. I'll just show the pictures, and then our focus is working in this area for dependent people, and for work on service innovations and product innovations. Maybe in the coming days, we are looking at teledentistry. We are looking at some awareness material, as Dr. Lakshmi was telling, and our goal is for social impact in dentistry, and this is our prototype. I know we have to make it more optimized. We are working on it regularly, and we've got some fundings from the government. So this is as you can see, is the mouthpiece which fits inside the mouth of a patient. We have an external unit from which we are pumping in certain water and liquid, and then trying to provide some oral hygiene and also suctioning it back. So this is our contact details. I am available on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also our website sociodent.in, and email IDs are here. Just you can note it. And Ekta, Dr. Ekta has a question. Where could a dentist get a modified toothbrush from? And experts, do you have any thoughts?
See, this rotary toothbrush is one which is commercially available. Oral-B and Colgate, I think they are having it. But customized toothbrush, we should help the patient make it for themselves. Like taking an impression with the putty and then making an acrylic mold of it and attaching it to the brush, or the cycle handle one, which I said. So some grip should be given to them. So that custom made, we can tell the various options so that the patient can help themselves, which is best for them. Those who can afford can very well go for the rotary toothbrush.
Yes. Doctor, others, you have any points? So there is this universal cuff available. That also people use actually. So you can look it up online, Dr. Ekta ma'am. So there's this universal cuff available where occupational therapists actually recommend it for all the day-to-day activities using hands. So for brushing also they use it. That's universal cuff that can be recommended. Modification using other materials, of course, as ma'am has done it, we have to do it in a customized way and give it to patients. Yeah. So any other last questions before we close? This recording will be available on the YouTube. I'll be sharing it over email to all of you. So we almost had 97 registrations, and 45 to 50 of them participated. We have around 25 to 30 people left till now. So kudos to all of you for staying till the end and learning about this important important topic. Thank you, Dr. Vinny, is oral medicine HOD from CSI Dental College, Madurai. So we have a lot of people, senior faculty. So thank you, ma'am, for joining, and thank you all of you. I hope this webinar was insightful, and I hope all of you start working on an inclusive and accessible dentistry, because that is the objective we started with. I hope all of you reach there someday and sometime. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for the opportunity, Stewart. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that.
I'm ending the webinar.